David was consulting with us. He's a licensed clinician and he practices a form of therapy that we incorporated into our rehearsal processes called internal family systems. And maybe Grace touched on it, but maybe you could just fill that out a little bit.
I don't know. That was a beautiful explanation of it. Can I just say, can we hear it for these folks? I'm just blown away what you folks have done. And I really feel honored to be part of it, because when I first walked in the door, I think someone had canceled. And I got a call to come in, and as soon as I came in, I said, "This is home. I have to find my way here." With IFS, it stands for Internal Family Systems. It's a model of psychotherapy, but also connection developed by Richard Schwartz, and it's literally sweeping the world now. It's being taught all over the world, and I saw Richard about 2.5 years ago at a seminar training, and once I saw him do what he did, I said, I have to be a part of this, and I jumped on the train. And what it is if you're in a room and you got a big family, so say you got 20, 30 people there, and different ages, different personalities, different connections, lack of connections. Well, he was trained as a family therapist, and his genius was, in my opinion, those are my words, that he took that family systems perspective and he said, well, what about the individual? And people were constantly talking to him about, a part of me thinks this, part of me feels that, I don't know what to do with that. And he took that, and that became the seed for what is this internal family systems, and looking at, Grace said, your parts, and also the self that we all have. It is untouched, and it has all these, how Richard describes it as having the 8 C's. Can you give us some of the C's?
Clarity,
Creativity,
connectedness,
compassion,
Confident, yeah.
curious.
Creativity, can we say that?
Yep. And one of the biggest ones is compassion. Through connectedness to our internal system and others. This is a non-pathologizing model, and it looks at parts instead of saying you have this, this, or this. And these folks, I can't think of it being represented and put out there in any more powerful way. It's just being a therapist and seeing what they've done, it's like, holy moly, how they've incorporated all these pieces. So I bow.
Yep, Ian. Can you just kind of give a summary of that for people who may not know what it is?
IFS is developed by Richard Schwartz, and he was trained as a family therapist, a PhD, and in my opinion, and I was emailing him, but I'm not speaking for him, I'm giving you my experience. His genius is that he took a family systems perspective. So if you'd be sitting with a family as a therapist, you'd have, say, 10 people, and you have 10 very distinct, oftentimes personalities, connections, lack of connections, different patterns, and he took that and then he applied it to the individual. And instead of looking at a person as being one person, that's it, he thought of the idea that we're parts, or we have parts. So what he identified is, and you could see it in the piece, is that we have exiles, managers, and firefighters. So exiles carry the burdens, of which you saw many of them and how heavy they can be, not available a lot of times to really see what's there. The manager's job, and this is kind of a brief overview, the manager's job is to keep the system level, to keep the system going. Like a manager in a store or corporation, you have to keep it going no matter what. It's a very, very busy job. It's often exhausting. And the firefighters are what comes in, and it's not a firefighter necessarily a helpful one, although it has a good intent. When the firefighter comes, it's like the civil rights hose, where it just blasts people into oblivion. After it settles, the exiles go back, because the exiles are trying to get out, like in any oppressed culture or people or internal family. and then the managers go back to managing, and then the system keeps going. What Richard also developed is this idea of self, which in all of that, there's this center of who we are. He defines it by the 8 C's. I give the 8 C's? You know them better than I do.
Some of them, compassion, creativity, connectedness.
Clarity,
Confident, is that what?
Confidence.
Confidence, yeah.
Confidence is one of them, right? Connection.
Yeah, connection, yeah, and compassion. So what you saw in these pieces is that you saw how difficult it is sometimes to be compassionate towards a part of us, and what's it like when you can extend some compassion to it and have a relationship. So this model has been literally sweeping the world, and I'm not over-exaggerating. People from Russia, China, Dick is in Italy right now. It's just this really, really powerful thing that's gathered this momentum. And I jumped on the train about 2 years ago. And I'm a teaching program assistant now. I just signed up. I'm 2 years into it. And so I hope that gives like a brief overview. If anybody has any questions, I'm happy to answer them after. There's 3 different levels of IFS training. And level 1 is the beginning piece of it. It's either over a year's period of time, and it's about every other month, and it's 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, morning, noon, and night, and people sign up. And you don't have to be a therapist. This is one of the psychotherapy use models, but you don't have to be a psychotherapist to do it. So we see people from a lot of different walks of life that really make it rich. So it's a year-long training, or sometimes you can do it like 6-day chunk and a 6-day chunk. But I finished my initial training October of last year. I signed up to be a program assistant, which is you help teach, you're part of the team, and we just finished that last week. And I just, maybe crazy, but I just signed up for another one, and I'm in it for another year, and teaching people how to do it as well, and supporting the master trainers.